Sit. Go.
All
Now.
right. Welcome everybody to our business development group for, I guess, September already. It's flying. I feel like we just started. But we're already here now in September. So thank you for coming out. I'm sure as anyone knows who is here, perhaps what we're talking about. But if not, we're going to be taking on the topic of member segmentation. So I won't get into too many details because our speakers are going to talk more about it. We're going to start with a recorded conversation that Stu had with Todd Letts, who will go over his segmentation matrix. Then we will hear from Rory Ring from the Chatham-Kent Chamber and Chris Emanuel from the Central York Chamber. And they'll each share how they utilize segmentation for their members at their chambers. So we'll open it up for a Q&A after that. If you have any other questions or if you have examples you want to share, we'll get to that after the end. So why don't we start, or sorry, let me phrase this the way Stu nailed it when he told me, let's start with Todd Letts. See what I did there? I did see it, Stu. I loved it, and I used it. So let's start with the video.
So it's my pleasure to introduce Todd Letts. Todd and I have known each other. I think our careers mirrored each other somewhat as far as timing is concerned. I've known Todd when he was with the Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce, also the Toronto Board of Trade, most recently the Brampton Board of Trade, where he recently retired. But Todd also has, I think, a bio that I would really just simply like to read to you because he's developed into, I would say, a global consultant. So I'm going to just share Todd's bio. He's a highly rated speaking engagements have informed and delighted business audiences and chamber executives worldwide. His popular Let's Talk blog provides helpful insights for chamber leaders on both strategic and operational issues. Todd is often invited to facilitate board retreats and strategic planning sessions focused on building future-ready chambers of commerce. And other services include executive coaching, member focus group facilitation, governance training, team building, onboarding, advocacy, and revenue development. He currently serves as the World Chambers Federation Vice Chair for the Americas. Todd, how was that for an introduction?
Oh, thanks. I should have thanked my mom for writing that. You for delivering it so eloquently. Thanks, Stu. And hey, you're right. This friendship between you and I is a strong one and is a long one. And before I begin, I just want to say thank you for what you're doing now in sharing your expertise and connecting chamber executives across the province, across the nation, and this business development group, I think, is a really innovative thing to do. So thank you so much for doing that. It's a pleasure to be your guest.
Thank you. Now that we've said nice things about each other, we can get to the matter at hand. This, of course, is Business Development Group talking about member segmentation, and you developed a matrix back when you were with the KW Chamber of Commerce. So, without further ado, why don't you just take us through what that is and your explanation?
Well, thanks again, Stu. And, I like simplicity. I'm a simple guy. I like simple diagrams. And this is a model that has become an industry standard, but simplifies how we can best serve our members. So the premise is, and I think we all know this, that not all members are alike. And traditionally, when we think about our services, we think about maybe the size of the company, how many employees they have, or what industry they're in. But a number of chambers now are looking deeper, looking at what we call a psychographic segmentation, fancy word for the motives for joining. And this 2x2 matrix helps us understand what some of those motivations are. Let's start with this horizontal line. Think of it as a line of focus. Those companies that are below the horizontal line are mainly focused on their own business, on their own enterprise. They've got their own IT issues. They're interested in building their book of business. They're interested in growing their company, managing staff, etc. And they come to the Board of Trade in a very transactional mindset. Above that horizontal line are folks that are interested in what they can get done through the Chamber of Commerce. And that might be companies that are interested in community pride and boosting our community, infrastructure, roads, bridges, etc. Might also be interested in some of the societal issues that our downtowns are facing, for example. So think of that horizontal line as a line of focus, and there's a differentiation between the transactional below the horizon there and the more, shall I say, community-based. We then have this vertical line, and think of that as the line of time or a timeline. Normally we see timelines in they're horizontal. This one is vertical because on the left are businesses that have, on the left are businesses that are tight on time. We know that most businesses are tight on time, but these are businesses that can gain benefit from the Chamber of Commerce without necessarily attending your events, and events are a big part of our delivery. To the right of that vertical line are those that do want to invest their time. They want to invest their time to be seen. They want to attend your business after hours. They want that trade show booth. They want that, excuse me, speaking opportunity. And some may even want to volunteer on your various committees, task forces, or campaigns. So this is, think of these two lines, and let's let this diagram help us understand motivation. So below the horizon, those that are interested in getting something from your Chamber of Commerce, very enterprise transactional focus. Above the horizontal line, those that are more community focused. What can I get done through the Chamber of Commerce? Can we attract more doctors? Can we get better healthcare and machines at our cancer center, etc.? And so if we focus on those things that are productivity minded, that help your company save time, save money, and grow, that is, we want to provide those benefits, articulate those benefits to those members below the horizon. Prosperity is kind of the focus of those above the horizon. What are we doing to help our communities be the best they can be? And this 2x2 is helpful because what we're interested in is getting membership from all four quadrants, right? We want them to be invested, and we want the business ideally to be not just involved but inspired, to take sponsorship, to attend events, to leverage their network, to share their advice. And by having this little 2x2, it allows us to label businesses in four different quadrants. The ones that don't have a lot of time and are interested in their business solely are the business investors. The business builders, yes, they're interested in their business primarily, but they've got time to come to your events and to be seen. Community investors is a label that we can put on those that may not have time, but are very much interested in the good that the Chamber does for the business community, for the community in general. That might be some of our tech companies. That might be some companies that don't sell a dime within our region, but are exporters that nonetheless recognize that the Chamber of Commerce is doing wonderful things to retain and attract and retain talent, to welcome new immigrants, to, as I say, feed our infrastructure and our health as our community grows, healthcare system as our community grows. And then there are the community builders. Those, again, care very much about our community, but really care about their legacy as well. They want to contribute. They're probably our board members, our committee members, those that are engaged in other agencies and institutions, United Way, etc., in our community. So this is helpful. We have labels now. We have a general persona of 4 by psychographic segmentation. How can we use this? Well, a number of chambers of commerce across North America, across the world now, use it to help them focus their messages, to identify a prospect, put them in a category through a few skill testing questions, and then speak to what's important to them and leave out what is not important to them. So to quickly summarize, business investors, for a $400 chamber membership, they're interested strictly in the transactional. How can I get $401 worth of value back? It's a return. It's strictly a return on investment formula that they're looking at. And you may want to talk to them primarily about protecting their business through group insurance, listing in the directory, for example. Now they don't have a lot of time, so they're probably not coming to events, but that's why we have this segment, business builders. They're interested in building their book of business. They will come to your events with lots of business cards. They will look at your directory and strategically use it to contact folks that are willing to buy. They want to be seen, speaking opportunities, etc. And that's where you focus your messaging to them. For the community investors, again, they want to be seen as leading, caring, socially responsible businesses. Visit their websites, read their ESG, their environmental, social, governance objectives, their social development objectives, and many of the things that we do, like I say, in terms of promoting women's leadership, environmental forums, etc., would be of interest to these folks, even if they don't come to any of those forums or events. They're interested in your annual report. If you can sell them a membership and successfully renew the membership, one way you're able to do that is by showing them a report card, your annual report that demonstrates the things that you've done, and most likely they will renew based on that success that you have. And the community builders, of course, those are your volunteers. Get them involved in task forces and committees. What's really nice is they want to make a difference, a positive difference. And so what you can do in your victory logs is demonstrate that they're part of something special. This is where a lot of the t-shirts and pens, it's not trivial, things that help folks feel that they belong and that this is their organization, the community builders really appreciate. Now, if we're taking a look at what percentage of businesses would we typically see in each of these categories? Most of the traditional chamber initiatives cater to about 75%, those below the line, our various events, etc., our directory. If that is all you're catering to, if those groups are the only ones that you're catering to, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. It might take a little more time, and it's a smaller portion of your business community, but that 25% has a lot of money, and you can afford to bundle a basket of benefits and charge a higher price for that in membership, for example, or you can approach them to sponsorship and higher sponsorships, higher revenue sponsorships as well. So make sure in your program of work that you're addressing each of the 4 segments. In business builders, those that like to come to your events, they can be future volunteers as well, or board members. Community investors, depending on what stage of business if they're in their initial stages of business, they may be too busy to come to our events, but as they grow, they may want to groom some of their people, and they might want to get involved in leadership roles, which your Chamber of Commerce can provide. So bottom line, just to wrap up, Stu, every communication we want to do to the business investors focus on saving time, saving money, helping them grow. Our communications to the business builders, give them advanced registration notice for events, because if they have time, they're going to be there. Give them enhanced profile on the web, some preferred booth space at events, and make sure this is reflected in your social media as well as your e-newsletter. Your annual report, for example, is perhaps more of interest to your community investors. Doing visits at renewal time. Yeah, it takes a lot of legwork, but they want to feel special, and you're charging a higher price. Asking for their opinion through surveys, other special reports that you might be doing on exporting, on homelessness, etc. And of course, community builders, they want to leave a legacy. They want to provide their point of view. They want special invitations and podium recognition, which is not hard for you to do. It's not expensive for you to do. And of course, thank you notes can be very, very important as well. So Stu, this is the member segmentation matrix that is now an industry standard. And I hope this helps your business development group.
It's brilliant. Thank you, Todd. And you've answered almost all of my questions. So well done. You've really actually brought to life something that I've been aware of for a long time. I think I've used, sort of in certain ways. But here's my question: what is the best way to communicate this, by way of membership? If you're going to, I don't think there's any way that you can go through this entire presentation that you've just done with every single member. And I don't think very many people identify community investors, community builders, business investors, et cetera, on their website. But most chambers try to draw you in by telling you a story. Avatar, I think you mentioned the word, but if you are the type of person who is interested in this, click here. What is the best way for someone to actually bring this to life when it comes to being able to communicate it to someone who's looking at joining a chamber?
That's an excellent question, Stu. And yes, you were one of the pioneers when you looked at changing your business model at the Peterborough Chamber of Commerce before the amalgamation. And you bundled things into various tiers, and it worked well for you. You learned a lot. You really taught us a lot. Thank you for that. But how you can communicate this was, number one, this is an internal document. This is an internal diagram model that can help your staff, help your volunteers focus their attention, choose their words correctly. You're interviewing Rory Ring of Chatham, Kent. I remember when he was in Sarnia, he used this model as a volunteer orientation for his membership committee, for example. And they helped as ambassadors for the Chamber of Commerce to recruit and retain members. Chris Emanuel, who you'll also be interviewing, used it to develop to change the business model, to develop bundle benefits, or what I call value packs, that brought more revenue into his chamber and made it a much more attractive partner for merger, which they've done, of course, with the Central York Chamber of Commerce now. So you can use it to change your revenue model. You can use it to orient your staff, orient volunteers, to explain better what you do to a neighboring Chamber of Commerce for potential merger. There are so many uses for it. It doesn't do everything, but it starts a conversation, and that can lead to many good things.
Even the percentages were quite a surprise. 6% are community builders, but you don't want to throw those out, right? I mean, just the awareness, even amongst your staff, I think is really, really helpful to be able to say, this is what we're offering to this, relatively small but really powerful and important group of people. Because without your community builders, you don't have committees, you don't have a board of directors, you can't say that you're in the business of strengthening the community unless you've got community builders, right? And so yeah, I really love the percentages were particularly informative for me.
Yeah, and if you're not using this model yet, you're leaving a lot of money on the table.
Mm.
Yeah, you're addressing the majority, 75% of your business community, but you know that there's this one company that you've been trying to get as a member and you just haven't been able to bring them on board. Well,
Yeah,
maybe it's because you've been talking about transactional benefits, things they can
yeah,
get from the chamber, and they would prefer to talk about what they can get done through the chamber for their staff,
yeah.
healthcare, infrastructure, where they can leverage their expertise. Let's not think of our members that are above that horizon simply as empty vessels to receive our benefits. They have value, experience, networks, etc., that can be shared as a community builder. So
Yeah.
you're right. Your question was so apropos. Communication is, and how we communicate and what we leave out and what we emphasize is a really good use of this model.
Nice. Well, as you mentioned, we've got a couple of people standing by to explain how they've utilized the matrix. So I'll just say thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and making yourself available so that we could record this in advance and still have you in the room. So thanks so much, Todd. Safe travels and all the best.
Thank you so much, Stu. My pleasure.
Awesome. I can't answer questions that you might have for him, and he's not here for that. So please, if you do have questions for Todd, you can probably send them to Stu and he can connect you. But for now, we're going to shift to our next presenter, which will be Rory Ring from the Chatham-Kent Chambers. So we're going to hand it on over to Rory.
Awesome. Thanks, Nigel. Appreciate it. And welcome, everybody. And I just want to point out, I saw my colleague Bob from Sault Ste. Marie is on the line, and maybe the team there. So at any point, they can chime in if they want to hear it from the street. So just, Todd has brought up some absolutely amazing points and perspectives. And I want to take this approach from that sort of on the ground implementation just up to a different notch and look at this from a strategic perspective, and then how it can create some conversations for you within your business development projects, initiatives. So really what I want to be able to do is take a look at this from, what is our perspective when we add a layer onto this, is understanding what our purpose is as a chamber of commerce, what our brand is, how we can put that segmentation to work, and then what's the value creation and the return on membership. Next. So one of the questions I think you really need to ask yourself is to ask your board whether or not they can answer these 7 questions. If they can understand what their purpose is, and does our purpose support the purpose of our members? Can we articulate our brand and differentiation? Do we understand what our value proposition is? And do we know which members want what, which is the segmentation model at its core value? And how do we position our chamber so that we're heard? A lot of noise out there. And then really, when we take a look at this, you can't do any of this without a good Canadian acronym of where the puck is going is where we need to be going ourselves. So really future focused. Next. The place to start is right here. If your board doesn't look like your community, you are going to have some real challenges. So think around this about what your board, how does your board reflect the way your community is structured? And obviously, when we're going to talk a little bit at the higher levels around purpose and the things we do within the space of DEI, economic reconciliation, disability, keep all of that in mind when you're looking at a strategic approach to the segmentation. Next. So here, what is our purpose? When you look at Coca-Cola, you'll recognize these as, refresh the world and make a difference, versus Pepsi, creating joyful moments. Next. Challenging the status quo and thinking differently, creating beautifully designed products, devote the talent and the technology to create superior products and services that create a better goal in society. Go, freedom for the soul. And if you read the Honda, very wordy, don't really know if it resonates with you on a very emotional level. But here you can take the perspective that nobody talks about what they do. This is about, in the words of Simon Sinek, this is about why they do what they do. Next. So to understand, your why or what your purpose is, I really think, do reflect on the writings of Simon Sinek about the ways we can profoundly change the way in which the business world works or our chambers work, what our organizations are in creating culture, creating trust, cooperation, and, the understanding that to get to these things and change the way that we operate needs a lot of people. We can't do it on our own. We need membership, like-minded people who align with the pursuit of why or purpose, so that ultimately we are going to create this chamber that may not be perfect for ourselves, but it'll be perfect for each of our stakeholders and members that participate in our chambers. Next. So the basis of this approach to your why or purpose, and there's lots of writings out there, McKinsey, Harvard Business Review, around the purpose-driven organization. This is just one example, one tool of that you can use to think about how you approach your organization. And while I love the segmentation model, what we're talking about here is a lot of what we do, how we do it, and we never have the conversation about why it is we're doing what we do and what is the underlying motivation that will resonate with members that are looking to join us, and really penetration, market penetration. Do we need to be engaging as many members as we think we need to do to accomplish our purpose? Next. So good example here, the Apple, the creation of purpose creates tribe. They're willing to pay more, buy more, put up with more inconvenience, but also build trust. And this is where you have more discussion around why you're doing what you do, so that you're building trust within the greatest number of people that you can create a tribe in. And this notion of trust for us as chambers of commerce is actually really on the rise. So next, there's a document that's been done for well over 10 years now, the Edelman Trust Barometer, about creating and the emergence of trust and how we can create differentiation, and whether we're acting like commodity producers, have a constant challenge to differentiate ourselves, chasing competition. And here I say, golf anyone. How many of us are running golf tournaments? But ask yourself why. And if the only answer is to generate revenue, I think you need to dig a little deeper into the soul of the organization. And then flexibility. This is really kind of where your segmentation model comes into play, and I'll see that a little bit later on. But also here is extremely important to understand what your purpose is when you're hiring, whether your members are hiring or whether you as a chamber are hiring. And I don't know if Noah's on the line or not, but one of the things when Noah came on board with the Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce was the time we spent with him to understand and bring knowledge about what the purpose of our organization is. And I'll talk a little bit about that in the Sault Ste. Marie context in a moment. But this is also, don't forget, this is an up and coming focus for many of our new generation. If you're not exhibiting your willingness to understand purpose, implement purpose, to walk the talk, and do programming around fulfilling purpose, you will find that your organization does become much more transactional, not only in what you do and how you do it, but also how your staff views and promotes your organization into the community. Next. So when you take a look at trust, our door is wide open. This is from the Edelman Trust Barometer. Clearly demonstrates that trust in the business as an institution is really increasingly over the years becoming that which is most trusted within the general public, whether it's the media as a comparison, government, or non-government organizations. So the business, the opportunity for us is to take a look at purpose, building trust, so that then we can implement tools like the segmentation model to create communications and create activities, the how and the what, to emphasize and build capacity and fulfillment of purpose. Next. So where do we connect this intersection now between the segmentation and purpose? And that's around brand. And many of you might have been around when we had a presentation by David Kincaid pre-pandemic, and around the brand-driven CEO, and this concept of the brand is the value of a promise consistently kept. And you want to keep that in mind, because what are we promising? What is our why? And if we find our purpose, we have to be able to consistently continue to emphasize that purpose, to fulfill purpose, and deliver on how and what, in reflection of ensuring that we are consistently sending the message that this is all about building an organization that serves the purpose of the organization's fit within its marketplace. Next. So what is the brand-driven CEO? You know, this is a great perspective on brand versus, you know, the reality of our why and our purpose, and the how and the what. So, you know, traditionally product, price, place, promotions, it is being replaced by a new 4 Ps that we'll see that David Kincaid puts forward. But it's to understand too that brand, which floats above and is visible to our marketplace, whether it be symbol, name, colors, presentation, should also be reflected on how our organization and our operations support brand, and brand is subservient to purpose. So it's to keep in mind that when you're looking at your operations, when you're talking about the how and the what, you have to understand where in your organizations the impacts are going to be felt and where you actively have to manage. Next. So in his book, the brand-driven CEO, it talks about the new 4 Ps: people, process, intellectual property, and partnerships. Very familiar, all of us, with these things. Just a little conversation here on intellectual property. I believe that our intellectual property is not technology. It's not that. It is our ability to convene and connect within our community and provincially and federally, whether it's directly or with our partners throughout the network. So when you think about protecting our IP, really purpose fits ideally within how we connect and bring stakeholders together and how we convene the players and leadership in our communities. Next. So the brand-driven CEO, 6 factors: purpose, leadership, consensus, change, accountability, and communication. I'm not going to spend any time on this, but you know, hit the next slide. And then when we looked at this and we applied this to the Sault Ste. Marie market, and this still is an evolution that, like everything, should always be evolving. We looked at this as being the catalyst for making a difference so that chamber members leave positive transformation in the community. So our statement, if you like, if that purpose statement then reflects it into the definition that a difference maker is a Chamber of Commerce member, organization, or person who accomplishes extraordinary things by creating positive transformation in their community and the lives of others. And this is about transformation. And there's a very subtle nuance here in terms of terminology and presentation. When you say change, the first reaction that you get from many people is one of fear. When you talk about transformation, I think you really are portraying your organization as having that future focus and making transformative activities, making transformative statements, making transformative strategic plans that really are going to make a big difference in your community and within your membership. And we'll see a little bit later how that translates into some conversation. Now, I'm also a big firm believer that when you talk about what you do, and if somebody asks you what you do, you should be able to respond in a very simplistic manner. I call it the TikTok approach, if you like. And if somebody approached you in the elevator and said, hey, what does the Chamber of Commerce do? And you say, oh, we do golf tournaments, we do the Santa Claus parade, we do this and we do that. You're talking about what you do, not why you do it. And that doesn't build emotional connection. It doesn't create the fear of missing out on something that is transformative. But if you say somebody that we're a tribe of difference makers, that then gives you the door that is open for a deeper conversation, which then you can use the segmentation model to actually form how you will approach and respond to that question. Next. I won't go through this. Segmentation versus hyper segmentation. Many of you might have seen that we are getting down to the market of one. But then how do we apply the segmentation model because it is based on these 4 quadrants. So when we talk to our members, here's some pretty simple examples in the red, which are responses to what we do. You know, the business builder, just-in-time marketing, sales leads, didn't get any leads. You know, ROI with the dollars that you've invested or the time in you invested. You said, we got no business from this. Never knew this event ever existed. Personal visibility, well, it never happened for me. And credibility, well, maybe I felt it, but I did it mostly, not you. So here's some typical responses that I think we see within our chamber space. And it's our role now to think about how do we change this conversation so we're faced with all of these objections when we talk to somebody about what we do. Next. So how is your, go ahead and just hit the key here. So we've taken the segmentation model and kind of broken it down into some very different, if you like, psychographic motivators, which Todd has referred to, and that's about why we buy, right? What are we looking to get done? And we add into this some jobs theories by Christensen, but it's around, you know, the business builder is looking for that connectivity and that credibility and cash flow revenue. So they've got a measurable return on your engagement. As I say, making a difference in your business. We can make that difference in your business. The business investor, you still package bit of that business builders in that, but you're trying to build the capacity of your business to operate and build your ability to compete. So that's that return on investment and making a difference in how you do business. So it's a very different conversation now. We're not talking about what we do. We're talking about why we do it. We are looking to make a difference on how you do business. The business community builder, again, getting the segment from before, but adding in the ability to influence and have community impact, return on involvement, or making a difference in your business community. So that tends to be a little bit more localized, but those impacts that you can see and feel every day in the community. The community investor, again, adding in those elements of the business community builder, but some holistic leadership. Todd mentioned ESG, CSR, but we also have to count in there sustainability from a social, environmental, and financial performance, right? So you're still adding in little bits and pieces of each of those segments. So return on community, making the difference that counts. So when we look at that, the model is really geared towards the evolution of business. And I say here, tiered value, not tiered what, not tiered product, because here we want to manage the why and not manage the what. It is far easier to manage the purpose of your organization and your connectivity to a prospect than it is to manage 36 different products and people's product lift. That is up to them to decide, in my mind. So there's a diminishing return, as you see, within the segmentations about participation. And that's where there's some conflict here around a tiered value model and a tiered membership model. So these are, and then this leads you then to the ability to have those custom conversations. Next. You'll see this in Todd's original consultation from the Kitchener-Waterloo. But when you take a look at this and value versus effort, and you do this and you start to measure really what are we doing that gives us the highest value versus the amount of effort. This is a chart that you could also manage what's giving the members the highest value and what is fulfilling purpose. And you think about then how we take a look at this delivery of what and how it connects to purpose. Next. So here's some conversations that you may have about creating why they can't leave. And I put in here business builders, you know, tickets, free webinars, gatherings, the what's. But when you have these conversations, and I literally had some of these conversations last night at our business get together, we'll make a difference by celebrating and recognizing the contributions that your business makes to creating a vibrant community, getting you in front of opportunity and bringing credibility to your business. Isn't that a very different conversation than saying, we're going to put you in front of 3 networking opportunities. We're going to put you, get in the golf tournament. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. When you're talking about the what, here you're talking about the why. And then if you're talking to somebody about how you apply why to each of these quadrants, you're actually talking to them and appealing to them about being together for the evolution of their business. As those businesses in the business builder quadrant begin to build capacity, they can move to the business investor, building more capacity, ability to compete. Then they can start to have more influence. And then the really ultimate one is to get to that community investor, but you will walk with them through the whole path of their evolution. And when you have this conversation with them, you're not talking to them about, oh, you buy this package and you get these 4 items. You buy the next package, you get these 4 items and then these 5 items. Because at the end of the day, you're managing product and you're not managing purpose. Next. So why they won't leave? That was a bit of a different conversation. You want to go back one? Yeah, so similar, but they won't leave because you're having these conversations around what you're doing to make a difference in their business, not what you're offering. You're not chasing product. You need to be emphasizing and living and breathing purpose so that you're not chasing product. And how does that conversation build then in sort of your business development space? Now go to the next one. So if you just take a look at a bank and you have these segmentations actually within one single bank, because each of these individuals that are in the banking industry come to you with a different reason to being engaged within your Chamber of Commerce. They come to you with a different purpose of being engaged in your Chamber of Commerce. But at the end of the day, when you start to dig, they're trying to make a difference in how they execute their obligations within their own organization. Whether you're a retail branch manager or you're coming from headquarters and a regional manager, each of them has a very different approach to why they would engage with you as a Chamber of Commerce. And when you take a look at this, when you're talking to the regional manager or head office, it's a very different conversation than it is when you're going to have a small business banker who's looking to build book. So this is how you kind of manage conversations, by probing, asking questions, some very typical sales executions. And that allows you then to resonate. And each of these different areas, obviously, when you take a look at sponsorships and engagement, have different levels of pools of monies that they can distribute within your relationship with that, say, bank. Next. So if you run through this model then, and there's a process to get here, is I think when you run through that, you should be able to articulate everybody on the board and within your organization about what your single purpose is. You operate to support your members' purpose through yours. And then that helps you create that brand and differentiation. It helps you develop your brand and value proposition. And it also helps you identify what members want what, so you begin to build your tribe. And how does that then position your chamber so that you're heard? Your purpose will resonate far greater than marketing a golf tournament. It will resonate far more than even your business awards. But your business awards has an underlying purpose alignment, right? So just making sure that what you're delivering, your what and how you deliver what, is based on determining what your purpose is and how you're going to fulfill that. And that purpose then also has to have long life to it. It also needs to serve today so that you know where you're going in the future, and it will begin to establish itself as a long-term differentiator around fulfillment of purpose. So these are some pretty live examples of how we've used, evolution building in Sault Ste. Marie, now being implemented here in the Chatham-Kent, and conversations based on this. And you will keep that conversation going when you talk to that business builder about the evolution of the business. When you have a community investor, you will find alignment as long as your purpose is aligned to theirs. If your purpose is not aligned to theirs, it's not even worth having the conversation, to be quite honest with you, right? And it also tells you too that we don't need to be chasing revenue. When you're promoting purpose, living purpose, acting purposely, you will find that organizations will come to you and they will have longer longevity with you. So we're seeing that in the Sioux, and we're starting to see that here now in Chatham-Kent. And I think that's the end of the slides. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Rory. If anyone has any questions for Rory, we can open that up after. For now, we are going to move to Chris Manuel from Central York Chamber, and he's going to share with us what he has.
Nigel, thanks so much. Following two great presenters here with great experience. So I'm still fairly new in the block in the chamber world, 3 years in, but really want to share how we kind of took a lot of what Todd spoke about and what Rory spoke about, and then how we kind of operationalize some of this by introducing tiered membership. So if we go to the next, perfect. So why did we go down this road? The one thing I learned quickly in following different social groups, things like that, there definitely seemed to be a trend in the chamber world that I noticed about the shift to tiered membership away from, say, size of company. My first OCC AGM, we're in Brampton. I saw the segmentation presentation from Todd. My colleague here in York Region, Karen at the time, had introduced a tiered membership in Stouffville and waxed poetic about how great it had been driving more revenue. And then just meeting Todd and talking a bit about it. And I know there's a consultant in the US that has helped a lot of chambers do this, but we wanted to work with a Canadian business to help us, a consultant to drive this. And we decided to work with Todd on implementing tiered membership. We ended up designing it and then actually shelving it for a bit, just because as we were coming out of COVID, a lot of uncertainty on the economy. But so we didn't launch it as fast as we'd like, but we're starting to see the benefits of it. And a big part actually is really just want to touch on it. It makes sense from a business perspective because we focus on, to Rory's point, about values, what businesses want. And actually we heard from some members that they're almost felt they were being penalized as they grew, because we basically offer the same things to all members, but they're just paying more as they based on the size of their membership. So we're back to what we worked with Todd on, was understanding what our products were that we offered. Some of you may look at these, you may offer the same products, different products, things like that. We really had a heart-to-heart with our team. But at the end of the day, what we were trying to do is try to connect, as Rory said, to not overly focus on products, but we really wanted to connect to why and that purpose. So we did an exhaustive review of what we had. And so we really focused on the visibility, the networking, cost savings, leadership opportunities, and impacting change and providing business profiling. So we did our best, and I'll tell you, one of the things that came up here is we were at a grand opening, and she just left us recently, but we had a very talented colleague, staff member, who shot amazing videos. And the company that we were at their grand opening, they'd actually hired a videographer. We're paying them $2,000 to do a video of their grand opening. We did ours for free, as we do, and the company called us after that we did the grand opening for and said they loved our video better than the one that they paid the $2,000 for. And I know I'm preaching to the converted here, but we know that the value we offer members for what they pay far exceeds what they're paying for. So it's a constant reminder on that, and these added benefits that we have. And then just how we educate this. So what we did then is we took these products, and we'll jump to the next slide. We assigned values to these products, and you may or may disagree or agree with these, and we're happy to share this document after. But we know that there's value to everything we do. And yes, you can debate the numbers and things like that, but we really want to give a sense of what that is to our members. And so we went through, had internal debate, and we still don't all agree on it, but we put a value to everything, every product we offer. Now, if we go to the next slide, and I know it's going to be tough to see on this full screen, we created a whole member matrix. And so at the top, you'll see we basically created our tiers: ignite, engage, amplify, and lead. And that really speaks to kind of the 4 quadrants on the member matrix. And the first thing we did, we have what their investment is, their cost, because we always try to use that word, investment. But you'll see there in the third line is the value that they're getting. So we quantify at each tier what value they're getting. So if you look at our Ignite level, our entry level, they're paying $329, but they're getting over $5,000 value if they take advantage of all the offerings. And we know the value that we offer and that it exceeds what they're investing. I think we always need to do a constant, better job of reminding our members. And so we did our best to kind of create these value packages. But because I couldn't agree more with what Rory was saying about overly focus on product. These conversations now with our members are all about their why and their purpose. And so, for instance, if we know someone that has is in that, say, community builder quadrant, we're now having the conversation at the lead with them. That's our partners level. Why I have a range there, 5 to 20, because those are all bespoke partnerships. That we focus on what they want out of the chamber as community builders. So our partnerships start at $5,000 here. So, but we know that top right quadrant, the community builder, that's the vertical that they're in. We give them everything, but we're designing that kind of bespoke partnership. And then based on whether we feel that they're community investors, business builders, business investors, we figure out where they are, again, between that ignite, engage, and amplify. And did our best to lump it together. So again, our conversation is not on the product, even though there's a list of product. It's about that why. This is important. So we'll take it to the next slide here. So we modeled this because I think that's critical for all of you. And what we did is we're very conservative. We assigned each member based on their current level, which was tied to size. Where we felt that they would likely select. And as they come to renew, we actually default them at what level we believe they'll be at. Now, that can move, but we kind of default them at their level of engagement. We've all got those members, again, we know who our community partners are, but we've also all got those members that don't show up anything. They do it probably because they feel it's the thing to do. Even if you email them, they never respond, etc. But so they're kind of at that first level. We modeled it, and our modeling had projected a 35% increase in revenue. We're a few months in. We're trending slightly lower. I'm actually blaming the economy a bit for that. On retention and attraction. We also just went through our merger. But we're definitely going to be up in our overall membership revenue. And again, the one thing I captured on that matrix was we're also doing the big push right now to get everyone, and we changed our CRM largely so we could do this, but we're trying to push everyone onto monthly recurring with a recurring credit card. We're going to create an incentive around that because we want it to be like Netflix, that you'll just continue to pay. You don't have to have that big conversations every year. If it's an easy one for companies to opt out of, we're just going to shift as many to the monthly credit card. But a big part of this is how you market. So what we do, and I think a lot of us are, historically have done the same thing, which is you have your net news, your email newsletter, and you're sending the same message to everyone. And the reality is it's not smart marketing, because your message that's going to a community builder should be a lot different than the business investor or the business builder or the community investors. It's a bit more work, but any marketing company will tell you, you need to do market segmentation. Pet Value doesn't market dog food sales to cat owners. They know who their cat owners are and who their dog owners are. And so, for instance, you know who your manufacturers are, you know who your partners are, and you need to be tailoring your message to them. Because what also becomes very easy to happen is they get their message, and if they don't feel it applies to them, they can be very quick to think, okay, the chamber is not speaking to me, not speaking to my needs. And so, for instance, it might even just be, you might have the same content in a newsletter, but it might be how you arrange it. For instance, you might have things that speak to more advocacy items on the community builder at the top of your newsletter versus the after hours event, right? And how you structure that newsletter, again, it can be the same content, but remember, the message you're speaking to your community builders is a heck of a lot different to your business investors. So I will say this, any shift down this road requires you to really consider market segmentation. So I've kind of shown how we've implemented it, at a high level on our memberships, and happy to share that with everyone. But if you have any questions, be sure to let me know.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. I know we're tighter on time now with just 4 minutes left. If anyone has any questions for Chris or Rory, please feel free to go ahead and ask.
I got a question for both these guys. To Rory and I had Todd come in similar to Chris, and I sit and I read. I got membership and I got the brand driven CEO. We've gone through these. And again, it's a struggle. Chris, like you, we started to go through segmentation and decided to hold off just through COVID. And what it all comes down to is resources. I'm a staff of me and 2 other people. And how do we make sure that we are delivering on the promise? And that's kind of what's held us up a little bit. And I'm wondering how you, in 2 minutes or less, accomplish that that shift in your methods to and have you had any issues that way?
So we shifted the CRM that we use. We were using MC Trade. The reality is it wasn't serving our purposes, and I did a lot of research. We're actually using a CRM that Chambers aren't using it, but it's a local business, but they've really tailored it to us. But we track everything now. There's nothing that doesn't get tracked. So for instance, we've created it so easy. So for instance, whenever we share something on social media, it gets flagged. And so that we're able to report to businesses on, come renewal time, what we've done for you, because of those, and it's critical too, if you're going to where there's a series of products that they get at their tier, you need to be tracking that. And I'd say if your CRM can accommodate it, that makes it easier. You have to have that. That's critical. But if you need to change your CRM, that might be necessary. But that's table stakes, I think, in this transition.
Yeah, from our perspective, Paul, it's being one, you start using the language at your board of directors, right? So it's kind of that, it's almost a brainwashing technique. You don't actually tell them what you're doing. You just start to insert it into your conversations around that, so that by the time you actually want to sit down and have a serious conversation about where it's going, they're already familiar with the terminology, how you may implement. And the CRM, Chris is right on the money, right? You got to track, you got to be able to do this stuff. We probably did not do as good a job in Sault Ste. Marie, again, because we ran into some major human resource issues as we were trying to manage our bottom line. But this is a process over a number of years of having the conversations, knowing your membership, and then building your product, your what, using the terminology of purpose. So, our women's event became the difference makers. Our business awards became the difference makers. We ran events about making a difference in your business. It's starting to use that terminology and creating that brand awareness, so that when you were asked about that, you had that definition like you saw in my slide. Well, what the hell is a difference maker? And if somebody asks you, and your staff, and your board, right? If you're training your board, like if somebody asks you what the chamber does, you go to that. Well, we're a group of difference makers, or as I say in one of my slide presentations, we're a group of people who just give a shit.
Yeah.
So you just start to have those conversations, and it's the dribble, and it's time. So by the time you begin to ask for resources or allocations of time, or you say, God forbid, Paul, get rid of kill Santa because it doesn't fit our purpose.
Oh, you're speaking to the converter. I'm going to kill Santa 10 times over, and I've been boiling the frog for years. So we're getting there.
I say, if you can refer them to me, I say I'm the chair of the secret society of Kill Santa.
I'll just add, because I remember when Todd started at the Brampton Board of Trade, and he created 4 separate newsletters based on each of the segments. So he had sort of disappeared right down the rabbit hole. And I think he learned really quickly that it was just too much.
Yeah.
So I think in the end, what's the expression, jump and build a net on the way down. I think Rory's right. You just read it yourself and start to think in your own mind, okay, how can we treat each of these different types of members differently, knowing that one segment is 52% of our membership and the other is 6 and the other is 19. That was really impactful for me as well. But I think, you just start to think through of how you even start a conversation. If you get a new member, they're probably going to come to you because of something that they've seen you do online. So what was that? And that's the conversation that you have with them based on that interior knowledge that you have around, where to slot them in sort of as a segment. And don't be shy about questions. We can just carry on. There's no real timeline. If you've got the time, we'll carry on. Sorry, Chris.
So yeah, and one thing I was going to offer up is we just, like, for instance, a lot of you do sponsor partner appreciation nights, right? Where you thank them. We rebranded that. So those are our community builders. We call it a prosperity council now. And boy, they love that. And then usually what happens is it's our partners and elected officials, which a lot of them, again, want that access to the public and media, et cetera. Even we're not doing any more. We just rebranded it. And frankly, it just sounds a bit sexier for them. And it spoke to the why, the purpose that Rory spoke about, right? And again, sponsor appreciation night becomes our prosperity council. And they love that.
Yeah, we did our networking. Our take was called Take 5, and we built around the catalytic events of the Shop Local campaigns, and we created the Love Local brand. But then we took it and we said, okay, we're coming out of this. Now we're getting back together. It's Take 5, Love Local. Very subtle change. This is not about networking. This is about discovering a business or an organization in your community that's making a difference. So now you're actually sort of putting that difference maker brand on the business, right? You say, okay, well, what do you do? How do you do it? Even here last night, small business, small footprint, but they employ over 100 people throughout Chatham-Kent. Like, that's impressive, and nobody knew. So now you're talking this journey of discovery and how somebody is making a difference. And when we sort of implemented that brand in Sault Ste. Marie, we found our attendance at these Take 5s. One, you got a younger generation, which was absolutely key. A younger generation, because they felt that you were making a difference in the community. And you got the host more engaged around talking about what they do. And Bob, you got any comments? Put you on the spot, brother?
Yeah, you put me on the spot. I agree. What he said. No, attendance went up great, and on those Take 5 Love Locals, and we are starting to find other businesses want to host them because they're seeing the exposure, the attendance, and we're booking like a year out. So,
does anyone show up thinking Love Local is like a dating service or anything like that? Is that
only the first time when Rory?
Okay.
Yeah, well, I have my story matrix that I'm going to send off to my wife and say, listen, look at what your competition is.
You got to charge extra for that, Rory.
Tiered memberships. All right. It's after 1. I don't see any questions unless anyone just wants to jump in. If you do, just unmute and do so. Nigel, this is me taking it back from you because I just want to give a quick plug for the conference, and I'll just put the link in chat. Time's a wasting. It's
I got a quick question.
Sorry, go ahead, Alan.
Sorry to hold y'all up. Actually, Kerry, I'm not sure if he's still on the line. He just sent a survey out. And one of the benefits we have is evergreen income. So we run the Port of Aurelia and Service Ontario. And it's actually a really hard sales thing because people think we're rich. Anybody have any practical advice for me how to get around that?
I would say separate business models, just to, or profit centers is the term, just to make sure that people understand, no, this is the marina and this is what it costs to run. This is what it generates in revenue. This is how many people we employ. I mean, how many chambers had or still have Service Ontario operations? And, you know, we certainly had to explain that that was, as much as part of, they were chamber employees. We definitely had to let people know that it was a separate profit center with not a lot of profit.
I think you should just wear a cheaper pirate suit.
There's that. Yeah, you want to project a bit of, don't look too lavish.
Well, the pirates actually help because of pushing politicians in the water, but yeah, no, it's just like, again, I've had a number of businesses that just say, well, you don't need my membership money, and they tie us to the city is another thing that is a big problem.
Yeah. Lester?
That's really, Alan, where that notion of being the brand, managing your brand is, I think, is extremely important, and understanding what your brand is and risk management around brand, right? So you know what some of those risks are, and it's try to build out those responses, even though they might, and you know what? Stick it in AI and see what AI has to say. You never know, right?
And the other thing, you might have just you might have just used this language, but if they are joining because you need the money, then your communications needs a bit of work, right? As far as them finding themselves within that quadrant, or finding a reason for them to join, as opposed to joining because you need the money. And I know that's not entirely fair, but in the end, we've all been guilty of that. From time to time.
Another flip side of that, sorry, is a conversation I had last night with somebody who's a benefits provider, right? And they're obviously not the Chamber One insurance company. We're not a member of yours because you sell insurance through the Chamber's plan. So yada, yada, yada. So I haven't got to this point because really it's still pretty new. But if you sat down with that individual, which eventually will happen, you talked about the purpose of your organization, it helps you, I think, position. The other side of that is if you talk purpose to them and they're not aligned to it, just walk away, let them go. Like, you know what? Yeah, I don't need your fucking money. I don't need you to get me to send you revenue. That's your responsibility, not mine. I'm out here making a difference in our community. If you're not aligned to that, ciao bella.
It's a good point. I start a lot of my conversations on the sales side. If you're coming to the chamber to be transactional, it depends on the business, obviously. You're in the wrong spot. And, and I can send you to a dozen other places. I think you should be a member for these reasons. Yeah. But you're not going to get a lick of business from here. That's not how this works. You're going to get your name out. You're going to do good for the business community. You may have a problem down the line that I'm going to help you advocate for. But it's the right thing to do. That's more the conversation.
Mission
never on
member.
transaction. It's a lie.
Mission driven, yeah.
Nice.
Well, I by the way, I just use it for the sales pitches advocacy. And I've really actually been turning a corner. We're really growing in members because of our Explore Aurelia app, which is a digital version of our directory. And it has totally changed all conversations, because number one thing, I'm sure most people around the table get the same thing, is when I ask somebody to join, they go, I don't have time to go to a business after 5. And I go, 90% of our members don't go to business after 5.
Do you have time to make a difference? Anyway, folks, I got to roll. Sorry. Thanks so much. This is an awesome conversation as always. Love you all. Ciao.
Okay. See you, Rory. Thanks. Lester, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I just have one question. Todd Letts talked about qualifying questions to ask to help place people in the different quadrants. And I was wondering if anybody has questions that they use to do that. We've been using the KW Chamber created that quadrant, and we've been using it for a long time, but we still struggle with how to actually properly put them in there, because it's a process we do and we don't really ask our members to do that. And I was wondering if anybody has questions that they would run through to actually be able to appropriately place people in the quadrants.
Good question. Mel?
Yeah, I would say, Lester, that it's just a conversation, right? So it's, I don't have a set of questions, but I do a needs assessment with every single member, whether they're coming to me without a membership or if they join online, I make sure to touch base and ask them what we can do to show them value for the membership right away. So especially because we're service-based, you know, you're not walking away with a pen in your pocket necessarily or a product. It's like a gym. So what would make you feel good about this payment, whether it be every month or every year? And that usually will help me point them in the right direction. And then I use that as a space to get that like no trust. And I'll say to people, hey, listen, I'm going to send you sponsorship opportunities and advertising opportunities. And there's certainly no pressure, but I want to make sure that you're not sitting there thinking, why did Melanie not ask me to do this? Because this may be something that you would really like. And so they trust that they can say no to me. And then I also will steer them away from things that I don't think are good for their business. So I do a member spotlight with every single new member. I interview them for 5 or 6 minutes. We put it on our website. It helps their SEO. It helps our SEO. It costs us nothing. And it really lets me learn their business so that I can connect them properly with advertising and sponsorship and connection opportunities.
Yeah, that was coming to mind for me as well, Lester, is, you know, if you just start with a simple, tell me about your business. And then just kind of take it from there and trust your instincts as to where to lead the conversation. You know, you can ask, you know, what's keeping you up at night. You know, what's your biggest issue around government legislation, or what, you know, your biggest barrier to business, et cetera, et cetera. And I think in the end, if you know your own segmentation model, then you can lead them into the appropriate membership tier. As in Chris's case, Chris, do you have any sort of insights? Do you sell a lot of memberships yourself, or do you have people?
So everyone does. We always ask basically 2 questions, which is, what are your goals and what will success look like in 1 year from now? And then you get a sense right away, are they here for leads? Are they here for networking? And because that will, but the other thing we do, which I think is critical, and I realized soon after I got here, is, you know, someone would sign up a member, great. They'd share maybe that we had a new member, fantastic. But now what we do is those answers get shared with every single person on staff. So our event team sees it. I see it if I haven't done the interview. And then it actually, because our CRM, it's actually pinned to the top of their profile. And so that whenever we pull up someone's profile, we know exactly. So that way we know what events to invite them to, what events we shouldn't invite them to, because we don't want to waste their time either. And I think if you try to understand from them what success, and it also lets you understand at the outset, if they have unrealistic expectations. For instance, I want to triple my sales because I'm going to meet 60 people. Well, hey, here's some advice. Don't just come out to our events and hand out business cards. You're just going to make one of people go home and shower, and teach them what great networking looks like. Come prepared to, because I'm honest, because if you temper their expectations, if they're unrealistic out of the gate, you're more likely going to keep them 1 year from now. And so that's why it's critical to have that question answered, but share that answer with everyone on your team.
Brilliant. That CRM sounds like it rocks. Wow. Chris,
yeah, we actually, like, we have a sales staff, so they actually go through those questions, and they do ask the question about, you know, what does success look like? What would make you renew in 1 year's time, or what would have to happen to make you renew in 1 year's time? And we track reason for joining. But we find that when it comes to the quadrants, it's very subjective, and it's very hard to use it to segment, because, you know, we have a lot of members, and we don't have time to go through individual members and, you know, try to figure out where it is. And a lot of times, if you segment based on the quadrants that the sales team has done, it's not as accurate as it needs to be. So I'm looking for specific questions, and those are 2 good questions. We use one of them already, but the first question is good too.
Yeah,
we need to start using that and develop a list of questions to help us place them in quadrants to better segment.
Yeah. Thank you, Lester. Thanks, Chris. That was great. Chris has all the lines today. Pet Value doesn't sell dog food to cat owners. That's awesome. Okay, just a quick plug for the conference. It's in November in Belleville. I just put the link in chat again. Would love to have you registered if you're not already. This is a great lineup. We've expanded into 3 keynote speakers. We're going to have a welcome dinner on Monday night when everybody's there anyway, and it'll be a full plated meal. So and a special guest speaker with a special talent that he's going to teach you how to do, and that's all I'm saying. And then we've got Sarah Sladek, who is a real guru in the chamber world around membership. Her new book is called Member Shift, and our theme of the conference is Leader Shift. See what we did there. And you'll all get a copy of that book. So please click on the link and register if you haven't already, and if you can afford to come to Belleville. So I think that's all. That's Talk Tuesday coming up on the 24th of this month. And other than that, just want to thank Chris and Rory and Todd for putting all of this together and taking the time. Todd was on his way to the airport at this specific time, so we recorded his segment yesterday. And I will send out all of the slides from everybody, including Todd, as soon as I get them from Todd's. And the recording will be posted. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Stu. See you.